Ming stood amidst the ruins of 11 years. The shattered rocks were like the bones of a fallen kingdom. The last light of day flowed like a stream of gold, casting a gentle glow over the shadowed walls. The wind blew, carrying the whispers of forgotten kings. Their voices were as soft as ash, drifting away with the evening's end. In his hand, the compass of enlightenment flickered with a luminous glow. A line of light passed through his fingertips like a newly woven thread of destiny. The metal needle trembled, like the still-beating heart of the past, and it pointed west, toward the horizon where truth awaited revelation. In front of him, something moved, a reflection of something forgotten, a path etched in time, waiting for the brave to tread into the realm of destiny. Ming closed his eyes and took a deep breath, the burden of history pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy stone of an oath. But when he opened his eyes, there was only a resolute look in his eyes. He stepped forward, without hesitation, for fate did not wait for anyone to turn back. Ming and the Amazon, the lost kingdom of Eldara. Lian stood still at the dockside, the sea breeze blowing through her hair, salty and cold. The large ship cast a shadow on the water, the sails swaying like butterfly wings under the darkening sky. Ming stepped onto the bridge, steady, but when he reached the top, he stopped, turned back. Their eyes met across the water, silence, without words, only the past that had passed and the future that might never come. The thunder roared, a storm brewed, the clouds swirled like an uncertain fate, and then the sails caught the wind and the ship moved away. She watched until his shadow disappeared into the mist, leaving only the sound of the waves whispering his name. The sea roars like a beast waking from its slumber. The waves rise like mountains before crashing down ruthlessly. The ship rocks, the wooden frame groans under the raging storm. Ming gripped the mast tightly, the rain pounding his face. Beside him, Zhang gritted his teeth and held onto the fluttering sails, his knuckles pale with the strain. The wind howled, their voices torn away in the storm. And then, a flash of lightning, a piercing light of the night, revealing fear in the eyes of the crew. The world stopped for a moment, in the beating of a blinding heart. Then, darkness descends and the next wave comes crashing in. Ming woke to the smell of damp earth and the whispering of something unseen. A thick fog hung low, caressing the twisted roots beneath the emerald canopy. Sunlight pierced through in slanted beams, casting patterns of shadow on the mossy rocks. He pulled himself up, his body aching from the accident, his clothes torn and soaked with water. All around him was the breath of the jungle, the rustling of leaves, the distant chirping, and the low hum of something ancient still lingering in the ruins before him. Golden eyes shine in the darkness. A jaguar is watching, not a hunter, not yet. The Amazon has swallowed him up. Now it waits to see if he survives. The jungle was dense with invisible life, the air was filled with the smell of rain and damp earth. Ming and Lian knelt on slippery rocks, their bodies heavy from wounds and exhaustion, their wrists bound by vines that were biting deep into their skin. Shadows moved around silently. Jaguar soldiers stood in a half-circle, muscles beneath their obsidian armor twitching. Their emotionless cat masks reflected the dim light from the blades that were pressed against the captives' throats. Then, Princess Calla stepped out of the mist, her golden eyes glowing with an unreadable glimmer, the curved dagger in her hand cold as it swept under Ming's chin. "Intruders," she whispered. Her voice was like the forest's, soft, dangerous, and determined. "Give me a reason to keep you alive." The river stretched forever, a vast black emptiness beneath the boundless sky. Ming floated in the emptiness, his body weightless, devoid of warmth and cold. The current pulled him deep, embracing him in its silent arms, then the whispers echoed. A pale hand, a shapeless shadow, rose from beneath the water. Cold fingers ran across his skin, searching, grasping. Below, the water reflected a hazy face, eyes empty and lifeless, and then, the light suddenly appeared. A golden light flashed through the darkness, reflecting off the water's surface in ripples like a spreading liquid flame. It shone brightly, then, everything was swallowed up by that light. The snake uncoils, the golden scales swayed like the molten sundae. They moved, stretched, and awoken from their slumber. The force of ancient judgment pressed down on the temple. The still mural suddenly moved, their pale outlines moving as if a story of conquest and betrayal was being told again. Lian gripped the torch tighter, her heart beating wildly. A voice rang out, deep, reverberating, and ancient as the heavens, resonating throughout the temple. You desire knowledge, child of a vanished age. But not all knowledge is priceless. The flames on the torch flickered, the painting whispered forgotten words, and the serpent lowered its precious eyes, staring at her, and Lian understood immediately, this test isn't just about survival and proving her worth. Zhang leaned back against the mossy ruins, his breathing slow and controlled. All around him, the forest was alive, leaves rustling, branches rustling, the faint footsteps of hunters who knew the forest better than he knew it. A sudden sound of air breaking, the arrow whizzed past his head and pierced into a rock just inches away. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, moving too fast was like death. Black shadows slithered through the trees. The Jaguar guard moved silently through the forest. Moonlight reflected on the obsidian blades in their hands. Their emotionless feline masks made them look like demons of the night. They are patient, they are accurate. Zhang slowly exhaled, his fingers gripping the dagger's handle tighter, the coldness of the metal seeping through his palm. The hunt is not over yet. Ming jolted awake, gasping for air as if he had just emerged from the water below. Before him, the throne room was revealed in grandeur. A towering emerald column cast shadows all the way to a golden ceiling. At the center of it all, a sun crown floated in midair, glistening. Liquid flames morphed on its surface. On the throne, Lord Varek looked at him, one hand resting on the armrest in a relaxed manner, the other tapping lightly on the handle of a bejeweled dagger. You've come so far, his voice was deep, yet powerful. Tell me, do you really believe that you can take what's mine? The crown of the sun shines hotly, and Ming knew then that this would not end with words. An altar stood before them, carved from black stone, as if absorbing the light around it. Its surface was covered in ancient symbols, twisting patterns that seemed to still whisper of forgotten bonds. The air was cracked by an invisible force, the pressure of an ancient oath that still lingers. Ming and Princess Calla knelt down. Their eyes met, deep, resolute, and full of understanding. There was no turning back, no escape. They raised their hands and slapped their palms together, and fresh red blood dripped onto the altar. As soon as the blood touched the sacred symbol, flames erupted. Golden flames burst out, piercing through the sculpture, burning away the inscription with a blinding light, like a witness to a newly written oath. The ground shakes, the bond is sealed, their fate is no longer theirs. They are fire and each other. The Temple of the Eclipse stands tall on a steep cliff, its spire piercing the blood-red sky. The wind carries the scent of incense, but there is something older in the air, something that never remains still. Atop the temple, Lord Varek stood before the crowd, a tall figure in black robes, hands raised above his head, a crown of suns hovering above his palms. Golden flames swirled and exploded, hungry and alive. A deep rumbling sound that shakes the earth, the sound of time, the sound of ancient spirits moving. Shadows creep from the walls, flowing into shapes, twisted, dark, staring with lifeless eyes. Dead kings, awakened from their long slumber, opened their eyes to the world once more, with forgotten curses. Above them all, the blood moon shines. Fate has been decided. The city of Eldara burned in the night. Its once majestic walls were now reduced to ashes. Black smoke billowed everywhere. The clash of steel against steel pierced through the flames. War cries echoed through the air. Lian rushes into the center of the chaos, the sword in her hand gleamed, the blade of freedom. She cut through the oppressors. A sword cost a life. Blood splattered on the cobblestone streets, but nothing could shake her. Behind her, the warriors of Eldara followed in waves, their battle cries shaking the foundations of the tyrant. The flag fell at her feet, a symbol of crumbling power, the chains of oppression, shattered in the wind. Lian raised his sword high. For freedom, she roared. And the whole city rose up with her. The ancient bridge trembled beneath their feet. The once solid stone now cracked and tumbled into the abyss. The war cries of the jungle could be heard in the distance. But here, on the broken span of the bridge, only 2 warriors stood. Ming spun, the Jaguar champion's obsidian spear slashing through the air, just missing his torso for a split second. The masked warrior moved fluidly, swiftly, and fiercely, like a predator finishing off its prey, its muscles tensed, ready for the next blow. Ming retorted, his dagger flickered under the moonlight. Iron versus stone sparks exploded as the 2 weapons clashed, the sound of metal scraping against obsidian echoing in the night. Hearts pounded, the air was thick with the force of the collision. The breath was heavy, the body was covered in wounds and bruises, but no one retreated. The bridge groans, the cracks widening beneath your feet. Just one wrong step, just one final strike, there will only be one person who will walk away. Ming and Princess Calla stood in the middle of the fiery throne room. Flames danced along the walls, golden shadows swept across the cracked stone pillars. A crown of suns hung between them, the flames twisted like living things, hungry, ferocious. The air was dense with energy, heavy, hot, and static-filled, beating to its heartbeat. They looked at each other, there was no way back, there was only one way out. They reached out, and grabbed the crown together. The ancient metal cracked under their touch, golden light radiated from the cracks, glowing like liquid fire. Crown vibration resistance, and then, it broke. A golden energy blast erupted, sweeping through the Eldara and shooting out into the battlefields, cities, and lands that had been shackled for ages. The chains were broken, the shadows were burned to ashes, the souls of the dead kings screamed before disappearing forever. The era of oppression is over, the light has returned. Above the scorching ruins of Eldara, the air shimmered with the faint echoes of the past. The cursed ghosts of 11 years lost kings floated in the dusk, their empty eyes reflecting something long forgotten, calmness. Their chains melted away piece by piece, turning to dust as the golden light of the shattered sun crown shone upon them, the weight of centuries lifted. The last whisper floated on the wind, a prayer, a warning, a farewell. Then the souls rose, dispersed like the mists of heaven, their burdens finally laid to rest. The past can no longer possess them. History has been rewritten. The throne room, once a place of conquest and darkness, now glows with the light of a new dawn. Queen Calla stands at its center, clad in battle-sodden armor. The weight of war still resonates in her posture. The sun crown is remade in her hand, not as a symbol of oppression, but as a symbol of hope. Before her, the people of Eldara all kneeled, not as subjects, not out of fear. But it is in the options the wind carried the scent of ashes and victory. The echoes of the past slowly quieted down. Calla held up her crown with her golden eyes calm. This was not the end of the fight. It was the beginning of the reign. The gates of Eldara opened, and the forest ahead was an endless green. The compass of enlightenment chimed softly in Ming's hand, its needle still and pointing towards the unknown. He stood beside Lian and Zhang, their bodies exhausted but their goal unwavering. The battle had ended, but their journey had not ended. Queen Calla watched from the palace stairs. The whole kingdom rested on her shoulders, but her heart still thought of the ones who could not live. She didn't call out, she didn't ask them to stay. Sometimes goodbyes should be said quietly. Ming glanced back once, and then they disappeared into the forest without saying anything. The desert stretched as far as his eyes could see before Ming. The sand dunes swayed with the wind. The compass of enlightenment shone faintly in his hand. Its needle pulled him forward, towards whatever lay beyond the horizon. But he is not alone. Behind him, the sand moved, not because of the wind, but because of something else. It was a fleeting movement, a barely discernible shape amidst the endless gold. The shadow was watching, waiting. Ming didn't turn around, but he gripped the compass tighter. The desert is never empty. The wind howled across the ice, and the whispers of a forgotten era filled the air. Ming stood at the edge of the world, his breath wrapped in the icy air. In front of him was the enormous ice gate of Kunlun, whose towering surface was engraved with ancient symbols, moving like living ice. The compass of enlightenment beat in his palm, its golden light twinkling in the cold. It had led him here, above the desert, beyond the jungle, beyond destiny. Then I heard a whisper, not from the wind, not from my memories, but from something waiting behind the door. His name Ming sighed, the journey is not over yet. Kunlun is waiting. At the edge of the world, Lian, Zhang and Ming stood side by side, looking at the vast unknown. The wind carried the scent of a distant land, a story that had yet to be written. Behind, the past lingers, ruins buried beneath the sands, echoes of kings lost to time, cities rebuilt from the ashes of war. But ahead, above the dunes and the muddled embrace of the jungle, kingdoms still whisper. Ming raised the compass of awakening, its light twinkling, restless and yearning. Lian sneered, Zhang sighed. The road never really ends, it just has to start over again.